GALP.
Looks like everyone's going on holiday. I should treat myself. Maybe go to Japan or Italy. Let me call my travel agent. Hi, I'm looking for a 2-week trip to Osaka, Japan in September. Whatever's cheapest. $20,000. I guess I'm staying at home. It'll be alright, I can buy some ramen noodles and watch some anime. Don't be like our boy Gaza. Narrator man? I've got a name. It's Dave. Did you really need to interrupt me during my tagline? Don't be like our boy Gaza. Forget about rude travel agents and weird inconvenient connecting flights. Make the entire planning and booking experience easy, simple, and enjoyable from start to finish with Skyscanner. Skyscanner price checks with 1,200 travel companies so you don't have to. Sign up for price alerts and they'll tell you as soon as fares change on a flight you like. Then you can decide whether to book or not. Be sure to use Skyscanner next time you're thinking of going on holidays. Links are in the description.
この番組はグランドスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
The flame of my life is finally about to go out. If this message has been posted, it means my time has come. I'm no longer of this world. My life was a series of battles, and I kept on winning. I know I caused trouble for many along the way, but I followed my convictions and I fought to the very end. I have no regrets. Only one thing weighs on me. I'm deeply sorry to all the fans that I couldn't bring you a new work. Truly I am. That's how it is. That's just how it is. So it goes. This was Itagaki-san's final message to the world. For those that are unaware, Tomonobu Itagaki-san passed away at the age of 58 in October 2025. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know much regarding Itagaki-san. I was very much aware of the legal battles he was going through with Tecmo and how he left Team Ninja. A lot of it is pure speculation online, but we know that Itagaki-san was not happy with how he was being treated at Tecmo, especially when it came to games publishing. He was very open about that. There was also a sexual harassment suit against Itagaki-san in 2006, in which a Japanese court found him innocent, and Koei's Tecmo's internal investigation also concluded, mentioning that the allegations were not indicative of sexual harassment. Why am I mentioning this? I think it's quite important to celebrate his works and his life. However, these events are quite important when it comes to his relationship with Tecmo. Due to this incident, he was demoted. In June 2008, right before the release of Ninja Gaiden 2, Itagaki-san resigned from Tecmo and proceeded to sue a bunch of people at the company, as well as the company itself, for around $1.5 million, 148 million Japanese yen, withholding bonuses for his previous works, amongst other things. Now, I don't know what really occurred between the two, but Itagaki ended up settling with Tecmo for an undisclosed amount. These legal proceedings do take a while, and Tecmo was going to be taken over by Square Enix. Then Koei swooped in for a last-minute merger, and it's all speculation, but the settlement would have been made in order to potentially allow this merger to proceed smoothly, kind of sweep it under the rug. We don't know. Once again, it's all speculation, but it's possible that the funds from the settlement might have been what funded the newly founded studio, Valhalla Game Studio, and its first and only title, Devil's Third. Let's not spend much time on Devil's Third. I'm just going to say it wasn't really a good game. It went through publishing hell with THQ going bankrupt at the time, and it kind of made its way as a Wii U exclusive. So a failure of a game within a failure of a console launch. I don't think it was even going to have a chance to be successful. But Itagaki was very optimistic, or maybe some might say delusional, about this title, having mentioned in an interview with Polygon that his team were interested in doing a sequel and that Devil's Third was supposed to be part of a trilogy. Valhalla Game Studio was closed down in 2021 during the pandemic to be replaced with Itagaki Games in the same year. Itagaki Games had never released a game, and we don't know what Itagaki-san was working on during the last 4 years. But I'm upset because of this one phrase in his final statement. Only one thing weighs on me. I'm deeply sorry to all my fans that I couldn't bring you a new work. Truly, I am. This was the final statement from a man who truly cared about making games. You can see it in his final statement. You can see it in his past works. This man was responsible for reviving and modernizing Ninja Gaiden, from a 2D sort of side-scrolling hack and slash into the 3D world. He also created Dead or Alive, creating games that were challenging and complex, but incredibly fun to play over again and again. In fact, I think if it wasn't for his passion and the revival of Ninja Gaiden, we wouldn't have seen some of the greatest action RPGs and hack and slashes to this day, right? I'll just be honest. I often say Tomohiko Sho, the producer on Dynasty Warriors, and Dynasty Warriors itself are the daddies of hack and slash. But truly, Itagaki-san is the father of hack and slash. He elevated the genre. He created a genre that many games emulate to this day. And a lot of them admit that they're inspired by the greats of the past, like Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black, and Ninja Gaiden 2 even. Let's not forget Itagaki had a sense of humor, right? He was kind of a professional Tekken hater through and through, having stated that his top 5 hated games of all time are Tekken 1 through 5. His rivalry with Tekken Harada-san grew over the years. It was all in good fun. And we see that in Harada-san's statement with regards to Itagaki-san's passing. Personally, I do want to see a form of in-game tribute from Harada-san. The reason why I say this is because I don't think Koei Tecmo or Team Ninja are going to have any form of tribute to Itagaki-san within Ninja Gaiden 4, mainly because he passed away before Ninja Gaiden was released. I mean, that's something that they could have patched in terms of the credits or something, but I don't think their relationship is that good, as I mentioned. So personally, like I said, I think from Harada-san, possibly in form of a DLC character for Tekken 8, maybe work with Koei Tecmo in terms of their licensing team to include a Dead or Alive character. I think the most appropriate would be Ryu Hayabusa, or maybe include Itagaki-san's classic leather jacket and sunglasses in form of an in-game costume or accessory as a sort of memorial to him. I was really surprised, speaking of Team Ninja, I was really surprised that they actually acknowledged his passing in an official statement. I truly hope Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo actually put their money where their mouth is and carry on Itagaki-san's philosophy and creativity and actually create games that the fans enjoy. Thoughtful games, not just money-hungry, DLC nonsense that we've seen in the past with Koei Tecmo. Because since he left Tecmo, it seems like they took the franchises he created and made them unrecognizable. Dead or Alive is a great example of this. You guys don't really know this because we were always required to edit this out of our episodes, but every time I interview Koei Tecmo or Team Ninja regarding games like Ninja Gaiden or Dead or Alive, I always find a way to mention Itagaki-san because I was always intrigued with the lawsuits and I wanted to know more, but they would never really say anything about it. They were pretty calm, but then it kind of got to a point that more recently, during the release of the Master Collection, I was told by Team Ninja in the middle of the interview that they will end the interview early if I mention Itagaki-san. So there's a sort of taboo within Team Ninja of Itagaki-san, and the sort of maybe hatred of him is still thriving. It's still all well and good within Tecmo and Team Ninja. It's kind of like mentioning Voldemort. They don't like it. It was really weird considering we were talking about remasters for games that he was ultimately responsible for. So yeah, don't mention Itagaki-san around anyone at Team Ninja because you will be escorted off the premises. Anyway, Tecmo took Dead or Alive and turned it into DLC slop. I remember there's think maybe £600 worth of DLC available to buy for Dead or Alive 5 last round, which is insane to think about. And DOA 6, I don't really know what that game was. It's like the forgotten Dead or Alive game that no one likes to talk about. The game that also charged you to change your hair color in game with this absolutely stupid ticketing system. I hated it. I'll be honest. I did like Dead or Alive 5. It was very fun to play, and it was my first Dead or Alive game because, you know, I didn't really play on the Xbox. I did, but not as much. I didn't really get into fighting games until I started playing them on the PlayStation 3, and Dead or Alive was, you know, pretty much an Xbox sort of exclusive fighting games. I hear that a lot of people felt that previous entries, including Dead or Alive 4, are much better from a technical standpoint, and I can see that purely from the game design, movesets, and the stage design, and the transitions between different parts of the stages. I kind of feel like it's something that we were missing from Dead or Alive 5 and completely missing from Dead or Alive 6. Like, I was watching a video. It was like a GIF. It wasn't even a video. It was a GIF of a transition of a stage to another. I can't remember if it was Helena Douglas kicking Kasumi down a flight of stairs, and she sort of body surfs her down the stairs. I was thinking, wow, where does that idea come from? I've never sort of seen that in a fighting game, and the fact that it was in Dead or Alive 4, a game that was an Xbox 360 title, and didn't make its way to DOA 5 or DOA 6 is kind of weird. It's like all of the stuff is there, just use it, you know? But I guess that's what happens when you kind of take away your sort of creative driving force behind these games, right? So what I'm going to do to sort of remember Itagaki-san and his works is to actually play them. I see a lot of people on Twitter that are misinformed, and I think maybe they got a bit confused with Team Ninja's statement, and obviously a lot of other companies made their official statements, Xbox being one of them, because Itagaki-san had a very good relationship with Microsoft, so which makes sense. But I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to buy Ninja Gaiden for, in his honor. I think if you want to remember him, play the games that he actually worked on. Play the games that he was working on while he was at Team Ninja. So play any of the Dead or Alive games from DOA 1, 2, 3, 4. Play the Paradise Extreme games because he was very fond of those games as well. And yeah, some people will be like, oh, they're just fan service games. But he has an explanation for them, right, with these fan servicey games, because I believe one of his explanations was he wanted to see a game in which, they basically do like stuff that you would see within a Japanese game show. And after reading that, I'm like, wow, okay, that does make sense. This is the kind of things that you would see in a Japanese game show. Or like the Keijo battles. There's an anime called Keijo, I think. It's about, I don't even want to say it. It's kind of like these sort of battles in which you knock each other off using your asses. It sounds so dumb, but it's a game mode within one of the Dead or Alive Extreme series, which I think is quite funny to think about. And oddly enough, I think the games were almost more sexualized now than they were back then, which is actually kind of crazy to think. So yeah, like I said, if you want to support, then play those games. Some people, especially with how they think about Tecmo, might not even want to give money to Tecmo, and you can find a lot of these games available on the Xbox store because DOA 1 to through 4 are backwards compatible on the Xbox series of consoles. If you want to, you can buy digitally, I believe, but bear in mind the money does go to Tecmo. If you're going to buy these games physically, because they do work physically backwards compatible, then if you buy it on the news market, then Tecmo doesn't make any money from it. So you make your choice from it. I think that's a very good way to sort of remember Itagaki-san and actually learn more about the games that he made, because I think a lot of people sort of misunderstand him. They think he's a very quirky guy, but the proof is in the pudding with his games, and you can kind of see what he was going for with a lot of these games. And one thing I would recommend is play DOA 5 and then go, or even DOA 6, right? And then go back and play DOA 4. See the difference between the two. And actually moving forward for Koei, say to them, hey, we want a new DOA game. We want it to be more like 4. We want it to be a game that Itagaki-san would be proud of. A game that he would be proud to put his name next to. Once again, if you do want to play the older Ninja Gaiden games, They are also backwards compatible on the Xbox. Once again, I do mention the Xbox, but that's because he was very fond of Microsoft, and Microsoft did publish a lot of these games because they were exclusives at the time. I think it's time for Team Ninja actually to work on Dead or Alive 7 and take what was great about DOA 4 and the Itagaki Dead or Alive series and give us a game that is worthy of his legacy. Get the professional players back on to consult on the development of Dead or Alive, like Itagaki-san did with games like DOA 4. Did you know he actually postponed the release of DOA 4 to implement changes to the game based on feedback from pro players? Itagaki-san has passed now, and I think Koei, Tecmo, it's time to leave your issues with him in the past and actually start celebrating him. Because without him, you wouldn't have half of the IPs that made you famous. You wouldn't have this massive net worth. And most likely without him, you probably would have ended up like a secondary development studio. And there is a lot of them at Koei Tecmo. Ones that make great games, but is forgotten about by the masses. I want to end this episode by saying thank you to Itagaki-san for inspiring many people and introducing many of us to these great games that you've created and revived. Because I don't think many of us in this community would be here without your contribution to gaming. So with that, I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for it. Rest in peace, Itagaki-san.